So welcome everyone to our LinkedIn live webinar. I'm joined by Alex Harris. He's the optimization director from Perficient. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic. Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role and a bit of your history in optimization before we get started?
Yeah, thanks. I'm Alex Harris. I'm the director of the conversion optimization team at Perficient. We're a full service agency and partner with Optimizely. My team is experts in all the optimization tools for experimentation and personalization. And me personally, I'm an MVP in Optimizely. Been using it since the very beginning when it was actually created. And our team's goal is really to help you make more money off of your existing traffic. So when you drive traffic there from ads, campaigns, emails, to landing pages or websites, e-commerce, retail, healthcare, any industry, our goal really is to improve your conversion and learn more about your customers so we could feed that data to your UX and your marketing teams to continually grow your website KPIs over time. So we help implement those tools, set up the program for you to grow and scale that program internally, and then show you how to use those tools so you could become the experts in those tools as well.
So one of the things I picked up on there, Alex, is the implementation part. Now, There's going to be lots of organizations today who are looking at that migration away from Google Optimize, so wherever they are in their journey. So today's topic is mastering that shift. And so I think you're going to be the perfect person to just discuss some of those topics. So do you want to tell me a little bit your history with Google Optimize in terms of sort of like how much you've worked with it in the past and your familiarity?
Yeah, as an experimentation practitioner, we probably have come to love and hate Google because they keep on releasing these tools and then taking them away from us. You see, because Google Optimize going away, this is not the first time that Google actually has created an A/B testing tool, released it to the public, got a whole bunch of people to use it, and then moved it away. Actually, my mentor back in the day, Brian Eisenberg, wrote a book about this. Always be testing. And that became my mantra for my whole career, always be testing. It's about the complete guide to Google website optimizing. And that was the original Google tool that actually went away. It was created, I believe, in like 2009 or so. So the fact that Google Optimize is going away, this is not the first time that we've been through this experience. I've been in this industry about 20 years, and it seems about every 5 to 7 days, tools tend to go away. They get acquired, or obviously Google stops using them. So whether it's Google or Maximizer going away or dynamic yield going away, you always have to be prepared that your tool is never going to last a long time. So when we originally heard that Google Optimize was going away, we were pretty sad because it was a great free tool or an upgrade tool for 360 that really any organization can use, especially small to medium-sized businesses. So we have been really focusing on trying to find ways that Google Optimize customers can move into a new experimentation tool to really leverage this opportunity to really upgrade their systems and find new life and new experimentation results in a better and more convenient tool.
That's fantastic. So let's talk about some of those things. So I know you've mapped out these kind of 5 clear steps in terms of what organizations should be doing right now. And so, the news broke, and depending on where businesses are, I know a lot of companies I've been speaking to are really focused around the sort of migration to GA4 anyway. And maybe they're putting the experimentation piece on the back burner. But just in terms of they've got this urgency now, they need to do something. And so let's sort of dive into those 5 steps and really sort of talk around what they are. And I think the first one you talked around, really kind of documenting where they currently are. Is that right?
Yeah, with any transformation or move to a new tool, whether it's Google Optimizer going away or whatever, you're looking to upgrade your experimentation and personalization internal skills, is really documenting and understanding where you're at today. And you should be doing this anyway, even if your tool isn't going away. You should be documenting your A/B test results, your personalization campaigns, how you set up all your analytics, events, and audiences in those tools, because they can be specific. And even the workflows and culture of experimentation that you deal with, troubleshooting documentation, all this should be created inside of some type of archive or wiki internally so you can go back to. This not only allows you to set up success for moving off of Google Optimize, but it also allows you to establish baselines for success so you can keep on growing. What is the old quote? If you're doing the same thing over and over and over, it's a definition of insanity. But if you're doing the same thing over and over and using that as a feedback loop to gain insight and then continuously improve your program over time, that's called growth. So that's really what you want to focus on here is moving off a new tool is great, but it's really about the strategy and focus that you have using that tool to be successful.
And that's one of the things I've heard about, sort of some of the benefits of kind of documenting that is like internal teams coming up with some great new ideas, maybe, or maybe some ideas that you've perhaps seen before as well in terms of things to test. And so presumably there's a kind of reduction in sort of wasted effort if it's something you recently tested as well.
Yeah, there's no reason to make the same mistake twice. I mean, you learn more through losing tests and you can try to redo those to improve them, but you really want to learn from your mistakes and your wins so you can continually improve those. It's very common in today's age that you're going to have internal churn and resources and people are going to leave. So really the champions of your experimentation program, you need to own these historical results. So when new people come in, they can learn that you've already tried these things and maybe you can do new iterations of that, but making sure you're not making the same mistakes as you have in the past.
And in terms of just some of the things that we're looking at kind of documenting is going to be things like the previous tests that the people have run. Is it things like, the workflows that, to go around setting up a test and that kind of stuff, maybe some personalization strategies?
Yeah, this is a real good time to really reevaluate your internal experimentation system and your knowledge base. So it's going to be everything from your history of your results and your experiments, but especially how they were set up. Every website or app is unique in its own way, and you're going to have some technical implementation details that you want to share with your developers so they don't have to learn that again. So it could be everything from workflow, development assets, CSS and HTML, how analytics are set up, because each of these different tools use their own proprietary languages to set certain things up. So you want to understand what problems that you had. So when you move to that new tool, you can solve them as well.
Fantastic. So in a perfect world, you've got a great client. They've done all their documentation. They've got everything logged and recorded, and they're kind of clear about the size of their practice and some of the previous results and those kind of things. Now they're out in the market, and there's a lot of tools out there serving a lot of different use cases, a lot of different size organizations, a lot of different industries. What's the kind of evaluation steps that you work with clients? What are some of the questions that you ask them that maybe they should be asking themselves right now in terms of how they go about that selection process?
Yeah, I work in a big organization, so we do have a system and a framework to walk you through finding the perfect tool for you. So there's a lot of considerations. Obviously, it does come down to price and budget and size of your organization that align to certain capabilities. But I work with all of the tools, and you really have to find a tool that is really as flexible as you need it to be based on your certain use cases. And what I mean by that, as I said, websites are all built differently. With the advancement of technology and single page applications, it makes it a lot more difficult to run experimentation, how your page actually loads. So one of the main things is that you want to ensure that your use cases and the capabilities of that tool are able to actually work within your page rendering and your website overall. So that's really what we do, is what we go through a framework of defining your use cases and the ability for you to easily scale experimentation through your marketing team. So you can use a WYSIWYG visual editor, or advanced into IT development, whether they want to use feature flags or just regular, more advanced web development. So it's really aligning those skills with the right tool, and then ensuring that the tool has enough flexibility to work within those teams and actually improve the output and the results, the overall outcomes.
And will you speak across those different teams to understand their needs, whether it's the marketing team specifically, or whether, as you say, that might be some developers are keen to start experimentation and do feature flagging, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a great point, because adoption really is the key point to get practitioners to come back and use the tool. So we go through each different team and try to define their purpose, like UX. Why would UX want to use experimentation? They want to understand when a designer is designing something, they should be taking the guesswork out. Like, I'm going to try to figure out this layout's going to work on the left or the right or whatever it may be. Those are all the things that can be overall experimented. In IT, is this tool that you're adding to my site, is it secure? whatever, can people hack it? Is it easy to implement? It's going to slow down my site. All the different things that can go wrong is what IT is going to really worry about. And you need to ensure your tool kind of meets that. Also, governance. Is your tool able to give different levels of collaborators to different roles so you can have a governance workflow process in place? In enterprise, this is key because they don't want regular people who are going in or developers deploying things to the site without approval and things like that. Lastly, I would talk about integrations or partnerships. So GA4 is a big deal. If your tool does not work with GA4 today, it's probably an issue. Of course, there's Adobe Analytics and other analytics platforms, but your tool really needs to be flexible enough to integrate with these platforms so the rest of the business can really use the tool as well.
And that's, I guess, one of the things also you're going to be looking at, that tool's sort of development roadmap as well, some of the things that they've delivered in the past. Now, I know Optimizely, we've always been proud to be a leader. We've brought many of the kind of first iterations of things to market in terms of some of the more modern capabilities. What are the things you're looking at in terms of sort of future-proofing the tool set?
Yeah, it's really staying ahead of the technology, right? So tools that don't have a big following or I guess really the internal budgets can't stay ahead of the technology. So they tend to fall behind and they tend to be very immature. So you really want to stay with a tool that's always on the cutting edge. So you're ahead of the game and you have to deal with things like Google Optimize really going away. So I think really thinking about what you're going to be doing in the future, advanced personalization, product recommendations, CDP integrations, and advanced audiences. These are all the things that are going to empower you to do more advanced personalization, like real-time segmentation. Because now it's not enough for someone to go through an experience and then within that experience, wait for them to come back 2 or 3 times before you understand their audience and then be able to serve them a certain personalization experience. Now, within the first time that they visit your site, you can understand what that person, what their main action is going to be, and then create a next best offer experience to deliver them real-time segments to push them to the next level of their user journey. So it's really about those advanced features that you can grow into that you may not need right away. So you start with basic A/B testing, and then you move into something like multivariate or multi-arm bandit, and then moving into personalization or advanced personalization, advanced audiences, integrations into the CDP and connecting that all together, working with different other tools like product and content recommendations to distribute the right content to your people at the right time. So it's really just having the tools in place that you can start to add on to this digital transformation, because you don't want to be limited to just basic A/B testing, because that's really only going to get you so far. You really want to work with a company that's growing with the times like you need. And probably one of the biggest things right now is AI and machine learning. So how can your tool kind of start to learn more about what you're doing and then begin to automate these things to remove some of the repetitive tasks that your team is doing today?
That's tremendous. I mean, we're doing an awful lot in AI, as you say. It's the hot topic at the moment, and saying how that delivers different parts of the business is incredible. So we've I think that the key takeaway there is don't just look at where you are today, but perhaps look at your longer term roadmap as a business and look at your aspirations and saying, what do we want to be doing 6, 12, 24 months from now is going to be doing, as you say, things like that real-time segmentation, being able to do advanced personalization and some of those capabilities. So the focus there is that people have gone through that documentation process, which tells them everything that has happened, to also have an eye on everything that they want to do as well.
Yeah, and it's really understanding what is going to be future proof for me. What does it take for my team to feel comfortable about the future? So you're really putting the power in the hands of your team to make them more successful.
That's fantastic. So in terms of the implementation piece, so we've done that documentation piece. We're down to perhaps a short list of vendors, and we're going to select the vendor that matches our sort of aspirations and where our sort of growth strategy. What does the implementation look like today to sort of like I guess to unpick Google Optimize, and then in this example to install Optimizely? Is it a big lift? I think people, look at these kind of sort of technical migrations and shriek back in horror. So what's that process look like?
Yeah, it's interesting that, well, Google Optimize was free, so that was one of the main reasons why people were using it. But to start off, Google Optimize was actually not very easy to implement. It was easy to get onto the website, but once you had it on there, depending on how your site kind of worked, there was a lot of flicker issues. You actually had to put extra code onto your site to ensure that the page didn't flicker. So that's one of the considerations when looking at a new tool. Does it have easy implementation? And all the vendors really out there for web experimentation do the same thing. It's one line of JavaScript that goes in the head of your page, and it should not produce any flicker. If you have any flicker, you're having a bad setup or you need additional help. That's one of the reasons why we choose Optimizely, because it's so easy to implement and it's very, very flexible. That one line of JavaScript can work on a React single page app, or it could work on a regular, WordPress or e-commerce site. So it's very, very flexible. It's one line of code that goes directly in the head of your page, and it's up and running. That's all you really need to do to get started. And all the tools really do work like this in the same way. And if they don't, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's one of the main concerns that we hear about, and customers who have joined us in the past, maybe from their previous tool, it was the flicker as a performance issue, which right away for the customer, and of course for themselves and the stakeholders within the business, it's something they spot straight away. So it's something that we really focus a lot of time and energy on making sure that we can handle it really smoothly. So what kind of teams are going to be involved? Obviously, there's that single line of JavaScript, but there's more to an implementation than just that kind of the technical piece. What's the process that you go through?
Yeah, that one line of JavaScript is just a copy and paste that you give to your development team, and they deploy it right onto the page. But after that, it's really involving each of the different teams. So our own onboarding process really walks through each of the different teams and really helps them create an individual playbook for their direct team. Marketing has a certain initiatives. Maybe it's focused on acquisition. IT is focused on security and improving their features. The general content team might be focused on retention and improving a lifetime value and things like that. So it's really ensuring your implementation is set up directly to work with those different teams. And I'll use Optimizely as an example. It does a good job by organizing your snippet into these different projects, either based on team or based on section of the site. So we work with really large teams, and we could have 20 different projects, but some of the experiments could potentially be working with each other, not overlapping, but maybe using the same analytics and events. So it's really creating, which is going to be my next step, is this new system of what I call accelerated growth, accelerated experimentation. It involves really improving your workflow, aligning your collaborative team with that future-proof organization, establishing a culture of experimentation that you're going to use GA4 to set up your audiences, deliver events that could be used as real-time segments, and then integrations that bring in other data from other places, Facebook, Google, Salesforce, and then create an experience that delivers that one-to-one personalization for experiments or experiences to serve the next best offer, to give the customers information that they may be looking for, and then bring all that data back into GA4 or Adobe Analytics to document it and do some more analysis on it. Also, one of the additional capabilities would be to, extend that analytics, bring that data into things like Snowflake or other analytics tools and do more advanced data science.
And it's interesting where there you talked about, those use cases that the different stakeholder teams are going to have. And have you found that Optimizely can serve all of those teams well, so that IT function as well as that marketing function?
Yeah, because Optimizely is such a mature organization, and they've really been focused on the experimentation persona from the very beginning to ensure that they get the right results. So you have the ability to start with a crawl, walk, run approach. You start with a basic experimentation, which gives you all the aspects of what you really need: setting up the test, working with different collaborators at different levels, different approval processes, and getting you up and running. Then you may move into to walk, where you're starting to do some personalization or a little bit more advanced experimentation. And then into run, which is advanced audiences, adaptive audiences using the CDP. And then an extra one, which I call fly, which is really additional tools like feature experimentation, where you're doing progressive delivery inside of your apps or your digital applications to ensure your features aren't creating any loss or any risk. So it's really working with a tool that has additional applications within that tool, so you can just turn it on, upgrade, and continue to future-proof your organization within one tool.
And that's interesting when you're talking about the different stages, that crawl, walk, run. Where do you sort of see most people in the Google Optimize world at the moment? Are they kind of spread throughout that, or are there kind of limitations in the tool today which has kind of kept them?
Honestly, I think within majority of all organizations, Google Optimize or almost any tool, most people fall into crawl. There's a lot of dependencies in order for you to move a lot faster. And one of them really is traffic and conversions. Like, how successful is your site today, or how busy is your site today, is going to really factor into how fast that you can move overall from crawl, walk to run. Because some organizations, they'll start at walk and move into run, or they're starting directly into fly. It's really about how your internal organizations adapts to growth and rapid iterative optimization. So,
and have you worked with, because I bet there's a lot of people who are joining us today who are saying, look, we'd love to do more. We're getting out like maybe an experiment a month. We want to be able to increase our experimentation velocity, because when we do run experiments, we're always learning, the winning experiments and the ones that don't work out against what we thought was going to happen, they're all learning exercises, and we want to learn more. What's your kind of advice for them in terms of like creating that culture of experimentation, getting that buy-in from leadership?
It's really a culture change and change management, because it is a different mindset. Me personally, I started off as a designer. I was creative director for a very long time. And us designers, we do have egos. We like to create things that are beautiful. And what I learned very quickly through A/B testing is what pretty doesn't always win. So you really have to start to create this different mindset of, we're going to use experimentation as the judge. And you can bring it into your organization, collaboratively. Maybe you're having think tanks where you're voting on things that are going to win or lose, or maybe you have some type of competition or awards for you winning, or whatever it may be. It really just creates some collaboration and some camaraderie within the organization, so you all be on really the same page. Because experimentation is just the analysis of what is going to work or what doesn't. The strategy and the teamwork together is all focused on the same thing: growth, and really getting you to that next level. And when each of your teams have their own OKRs and certain KPIs that they really need to improve upon, you use the experimentation tool to establish the baseline of each of those events or those metrics, and then continue to improve upon them. And that's really the end goal: to help the organization make more money, increase revenue, and reduce their CPAs.
And so that's the conversation, as people are doing that kind of decision now about where to go and how to do it. There's not many free tools out there, but in terms of some sort of very budget tooling versus some tooling which is maybe more enterprise ready, how do they sort of make that conversation with those senior stakeholders in terms of like how that maybe not convincing them, but highlighting some of the benefits of actually investing in a tool?
Honestly, if you're thinking about ways to grow your organization through experimentation, I would do everything you can initially before starting with a tool, because a tool is actually only going to get you so far. Because you could do A/B testing, say, without a tool. You could do A/B testing in your Google ads, in your Facebook ads, in your email campaigns, or just serve up 2 different landing pages and see which one really wins. But really, what an experimentation tool is going to do is going to bring that all together and allow you to move in one system a lot faster. Because the way we set up our experimentation projects is we essentially have different streams of experimentation. An e-commerce site is the easiest to explain. So you have a home page, a product page, a category page, a cart, and a checkout. Really, you can create experiments on each one of those different sections of your site, and then have a testing track that's only focused on the homepage, or only focused on your landing page, or only focused on the cart and checkout. And more than likely, those experiments are not going to be exclusive and not going to mess anything up in analytics. But we now are able to accelerate the velocity of experiments within each testing track, so we can have 4 or 5 experiments running at one time. And the goal to a successful experimentation program is to have a backlog of experiments. So when one experiment finishes, you always have another one ready to go to begin. So you have constant experimentation within each swim lane.
That's interesting. That kind of sounds like, part of that culture of experimentation, that improvement of velocity and pieces. And are there things that maybe where they were using Google Optimize before that they should be thinking about now, in terms of like, maybe they had a workflow set up in a particular way that they should revisit that? Maybe they're only doing that one test a month kind of thing. Are there other sort of recommendations or some of the things they should be or could be taking advantage of it as they migrate?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just let's talk about some of the problems with Google Optimize. Aside from the Flickr and some of the implementation stuff, you only had a couple goals to choose from. If you brought in goals from Google Analytics, you could focus on a couple goals. You can only run, I believe, maybe 3 experiments at one time. And the analytics really weren't the best. You had to do a lot of extra in the end. Optimizely and other tools make this overall a lot easier. They are directly focused on the experiment and the experiment results, and they remove the need for real data science interpretation. Of course, you can give that to a data science and they can do more elaborate analysis on it. But for the most part, Optimizely and other tools have very easy to understand results pages, and they are made intentionally easy to share with your executives.
Yeah, I know that's something that a lot of our clients really appreciate, is that the visibility of the results, being able to understand the data, but also having the confidence in that data around statistical significance, being able to give that, as you say, to data analyst teams if they want to delve further, but at the same time being able to present it in a really clean way for those executive stakeholders and others who are obviously going to have their eyes on these kind of experimentation issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
So once we've got that culture established, we've got our teams set up, what's the kind of the longer term roadmap and things that they can be focusing on in terms of delivering?
Yeah, as I've been talking today, it's really been focused on, strategy and the thought process of it. And that's really what it's about. I'm going to come back that, the tool only gets you so far. It's really about the culture and the organization to get people to come up with these ideas. I mean, first of all, you have to establish a real experimentation system, a collaborative workflow within your organization, because ideas are easy. Everybody can generate ideas and a list of ideas. Execution's hard, but when ideas get prioritized within a scorecard based on opportunity value, and you align that with the priorities and outcomes of your business, your OKRs, now you have a real plan and a strategy to execute within any tool, really. So it's establishing multiple teams, leveraging the same system within organized projects so they can focus on their area of the site within their specific KPIs. Having those isolated testing tracks to have mutually exclusive experiments, have the integration of all the systems together, so you can use a Snowflake or a CDP with like a real-time segments, and then having that plan for future-proofing and your digital transformation, as they say, so you can grow your experimentation tool with your business overall.
Alex, this has been so useful. So if we want to sort of summarize what those kind of 5 steps that you see it, the first one is going to be documenting everything that you're doing today, some previous results, previous workflows and those kind of things, making sure that you got that documentation piece in-house. The second piece is really around that tool evaluation. So that's looking at the needs and requirements of your teams. This is going to be like things like price, capabilities, functionality. Third thing is around implementation. We've already heard how easy Optimizely is in terms of doing that migration piece. And I know that's the bit that scares a lot of teams, as they're heading into that. So really focusing around implementation. There's that basic implementation, then there's some more advanced stuff that you can do if you so wish to. The fourth thing is really around getting that really focusing that accelerated experimentation. So going from that kind of crawl and walk stage, which perhaps a lot of organizations have been today, because they've been held back potentially as well by Google Optimize or some of the other tools they might have been using. And then really is to make the most of that kind of that culture of experimentation within the business and being able to leverage that across multiple teams and multiple systems, making sure that you're actually really addressing the objectives and KPIs of the different teams that you're working with. Is that a kind of a good summary of where we've got to?
Yeah, I think one of the key takeaways really is to, within your organization, when you're creating that culture, that mindset of experimentation, is really focus on finding champions within each team, people who believe in experimentation and understand the opportunities really in front of it, because that's what experimentation does. It allows you to organize your enhancement backlog in an order that's going to help you the most in the fastest amount of time, providing quick wins, longer term enhancements, or experiments that are going to need work. And also really starting to think about what has been missing from using Google Optimize. When you create that history of what you see, you should start to see, okay, these are the roles that I may have been missing. These are the things that I didn't do when I was using Google Optimize. Now I have this new tool. I can recreate a system for accelerated growth, and then I can use that to work with my champions within the organization so they can spread the word of using this to help the business grow really fast.
So it sounds like a lot of companies out there should be really looking at like the death of Google Optimize as an opportunity to really accelerate and upscale some of the things that they've got benefit from in the past. They can get a whole bunch more benefit from in the future.
Yeah, because if you're using a tool that's not very popular, it's very possible that your tool might go away as well.
Alex, thank you so much for today. I'm sure if anyone wants to ask yourself or myself any more questions, they can connect with us here on LinkedIn. And I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.